Okay, that moment when you open the fridge and it feels like a culinary blank canvas or maybe just blank.
We've all been there.
And let's be honest, who hasn't felt a little bit of a sting looking at the grocery bill lately?
Yeah,
It just seems to keep climbing.
absolutely. It's a real pressure point for so many people right now.
Well, today on the deep dive, we're actually tackling that head on. We've
Okay.
got this really fascinating pasted text. It sort of throws down a series of meal challenges.
Yeah, with budgets ranging from, what, a super tight 5 pound?
Exactly, 5 pounds, all the way up to a slightly more relaxed 20 pounds.
And what's really interesting about this source, I think, is how it kind of reframes that whole idea of budget eating.
How so?
Well, it's not really presented as deprivation, It's framed more like a creative constraint. The suggestion is that these limits can actually unlock some unexpected and pretty inventive cooking.
Yeah, I like that. It's less of a stern lecture on, saving every last penny
Right.
and more like a playful exploration of what's actually possible. Almost like a culinary puzzle, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. How do you create something delicious, something satisfying with, well, limited resources?
So our goal here in this deep dive is really to pull out the most inspiring, maybe the most practical ideas for you, the listener.
Yeah, so you can maybe navigate those budget conscious moments in your own kitchen without feeling like you're completely missing out.
Exactly. Find those aha moments, maybe avoid some info overload.
Hmm.
And to help us make sense of this whole creative approach, we've got our expert here to offer some broader perspective.
Happy to be here. So, should we dive into this core concept, these meal challenges?
Yeah, let's do it. So the author sets out these clear budget levels you mentioned, 5 pounds up to 20 pounds.
Right. And what stands out straight away is how inclusive it is. It's not just for cooking for one.
No, the text specifically mentions cooking for one, two, three, or even four people within these limits, which is, well, quite something in the lower end.
It really is. And it's not just about, hitting the shocks with a tenner and hoping for the best.
No, there's this fantastic emphasis on using what you've already got. That line about rating the cupboards and fridge, that feels key.
Oh, totally. It's such a good reminder, isn't it? We often have these forgotten ingredients lurking around that could actually be the foundation of a great meal.
It really taps into that waste not, want not mentality. Proper old school
Yeah.
wisdom, but still so relevant.
And, the text playfully suggests if you're clever with the planning,
Yeah.
you might even manage to squeeze in a cheeky drink.
I love that. It shows it's not all about austerity, right?
Exactly. That mention of the cheeky drink is quite insightful, I think. It acknowledges that food isn't just fuel. It's often tied to enjoyment, maybe a bit of social connection, too.
Yeah, it shows the author gets it. A strict budget doesn't have to mean sacrificing all the little pleasures.
So, thinking about the why behind all this,
Hmm.
what's the driving force for these culinary experiments in the source?
Well, the source is pretty clear. It points directly to the realities we all know: rising food prices, soaring energy costs. That's the practical side.
Okay, the necessity part.
But beyond that, there seems to be this real desire to inject some, I don't know, excitement, some drama even into everyday cooking.
Precisely. It's not just about reacting to those financial pressures, but actively seeking a creative outlet. It's like the author wants to prove that a limited budget doesn't automatically mean bland or uninspired meals.
Yeah, and they spell out those three core objectives pretty clearly. What were they again?
Uh, Eating well on a budget, using imagination to elevate simple ingredients, and making dinner fun rather than a financial burden.
Right, making it fun. That really highlights this proactive, kind of positive approach, doesn't it?
It really does.
And I absolutely love that the text mentions aiming for a yes, chef moment.
Yeah, that captures it perfectly.
It just gets that feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah.
When you manage to pull off something genuinely satisfying against the odds, it sort of elevates cooking from just a routine task.
To a moment of triumph. Yeah, exactly. Even if it's just for yourself.
Okay, so let's get into the how, the practical side of these challenges.
All right, so the source outlines this range of meal budgets, 5 pounds to 20 pounds. That gives it a pretty flexible framework for anyone wanting to try this out.
And it's not just dinners, is it?
No, not at all. The possibility of breakfast bowls, hearty lunches, lush dinners, their word, and even potential desserts is all on the table.
The ambition is just fantastic. I mean, the text playfully throws out ideas like toasty towers
Which sounds intriguing.
and even attempting a full roast on 15 pounds.
Wow, okay.
It really sets a high bar, doesn't it? It suggests that even with these pretty tight limitations, the aim is to create something substantial and genuinely enjoyable, not just, scrape by.
And that rule we touched on, use what we've got, that seems so important practically.
Definitely. It encourages a different way of thinking about meal planning, I reckon,
Hmm.
instead of deciding what you want and then buying everything.
You start by assessing what's actually available.
Right.
Those examples they give: forgotten gherkins, a stray tin of peaches.
Yeah. It highlights the potential for maybe unexpected flavor combinations, but also, crucially, for reducing food waste. That's a big plus.
A huge plus. And then there's this mention of potential time limits. That adds another interesting dimension, doesn't it?
Yeah, that element of, like, a bit of kitchen chaos, a
Hmm.
sort of friendly race against the clock. It definitely brings in that sense of playful challenge again,
Makes it feel a bit like a game show, maybe?
maybe. And then there's the bonus round drinks, which is just a brilliant touch, I think.
It really is. The idea of using any leftover pennies to whip up a budget-friendly cocktail or mocktail to celebrate a successful meal,
It's just inspired, isn't it?
it really reinforces the idea that the whole experience should be enjoyable and, well, rewarding. It's not just about the food itself.
No, it's about the creativity, the resourcefulness, and yeah, that little celebratory treat at the end.
But I think the real heart of this whole approach, maybe the core philosophy, is what the source calls the real secret sauce:
Which is,
prioritizing fun over fuss.
okay. Fun over fast. I like that.
It feels like a very deliberate move away from the pressure of, culinary perfection. Accepting slightly wonky pancakes or a lasagna that's maybe a bit lopsided.
It's so refreshing. Makes the whole thing feel much more accessible, doesn't it?
Exactly. You don't need to be a professional chef or even a particularly neat cook, maybe, to take on these kinds of challenges.
The focus is more on experimentation, the sort of joy of discovery.
Yeah, finding new uses for those overlooked items in your pantry. Like, remember that bag of lentils you bought ages ago? What can you actually do with it?
We've all got those working items.
Yeah.
And the point that food is about more than just sustenance, that really resonates too.
How so?
Well, it's about the stories we create in the kitchen, memories we make, and yeah, even those sneaky midnight snacks standing over the sink. It connects our food experiences to our wider lives, I think.
That's a great point. Which kind of brings us neatly to their mantra:
Go on.
cheap, cheerful, and slightly unhinged.
Huh. Okay, that perfectly captures the spirit, doesn't it? Cheap, cheerful, slightly unhinged.
It sums up the goals, the attitude. It's about embracing the imperfections, celebrating the little wins, and importantly, not taking the whole thing too seriously.
And that example they give of a potential budget Bloody Mary,
Oh, yeah.
made with leftover tomato soup.
No way. Okay, that is slightly unhinged, but genius.
Exactly. It's that kind of imaginative, maybe slightly unconventional thinking that makes this whole idea so appealing. It encourages you to look at ingredients in a totally new way and not be afraid to experiment a little bit.
So, thinking about you, the listener, what can you really gain from exploring these ideas? What are the takeaways?
Well, the source promises, witty insights, honest shopping lists, which could be really useful, and stories of both successes and failures.
Ah, the reality check. Good.
Yeah, the full picture. And crucially, it offers genuine tips for eating well on a budget without feeling like you're constantly, sacrificing taste or enjoyment.
And the mention of surprising photos, things that might impress even experienced cooks, that suggests there's real innovation happening here, real cleverness sparked by those budget constraints.
Definitely. It highlights how limitations can actually spark creativity in the kitchen rather than just stifle it.
So, whether you listening are looking for practical ideas to save a bit of money on food, or maybe just a bit of culinary inspiration,
Or even just some entertainment.
or just entertainment, yeah,
Yeah.
this exploration of budget meal challenges seems to have something to offer.
So, wrapping things up, what's the key insight here?
Ultimately, I think the core message is that a tight food budget doesn't automatically equal boring or unsatisfying meals. It just doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
This source really champions the power of creativity, of resourcefulness, and importantly, having a good sense of humor in the kitchen.
Yeah, seeing the pantry and the budget not as restrictions, maybe.
Exactly. Seeing them more as starting points for some potentially exciting culinary adventures.
And for you, our listener, who we know appreciates getting valuable knowledge quickly, but also thoroughly.
We hope this deep dive has sparked some aha moments.
Yeah. Showing how maybe a more playful approach to your food budget could open up some unexpected and hopefully delicious possibilities.
Which leads us to a final interesting question for you to maybe mull over.
Okay, hit me with it.
What's one ingredient lurking in your kitchen right now? Something you might have overlooked, but which could perhaps be the star of your next budget-friendly meal?
Ooh, good question. Or maybe, could embracing just a little bit of that kitchen chaos, that slightly unhinged spirit, actually lead to more enjoyable and affordable meals in your own life?
Definitely some food for thought there.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.